Doing? So we finally started Garden 2. This one was it's not really last. There's still we got to do, but we're trying to do everything 2 weeks for each garden. That way we have a fresh supply of fruit throughout the season. So this one we did a little different today. You've watched how I do most of them. This one here, we already had the mat. You can see way back behind the wheelbarrow. Oh, let me lift it up. That's the old mat, weed mat, and that was impervious. And that actually lasted 4 years. Could you believe that? But after working the garden and putting holes in it, weeds started coming through the holes. So we just got rid of it. And then, of course, back there you can see the rototiller. And instead of doing the usual, what we did here is we rototilled the whole thing. And I had where that little McDonald's iced tea cup is sitting right there with 3 large piles. There's a pile of 2-year-old humus, 5-year-old horse manure, and new wood chips. And so we did something different because we're running out of time. And I did this whole thing in one day, believe it or not. Rototilled it. Actually, I cleaned it the night before, which took 3-4 hours to get the weeds out. You can see back there that big pile. That's my 4x4 compost bin. And I don't compost like you guys. I just throw it in there. And in 5 years or 3 years or whatever, I'll open it up, take the dirt out. But you can see how I fill it to the top. And then this whole area is still supposed to have tomatoes or something. And I ran out of room, so I'll figure that out. I got one more day here. So what we did here is we just rototilled, and we spread that out, those 3 piles, and kind of spread it out on top. And then we rototilled again, and then we laid down our weed mat. So this here is an impervious one. You know what? They work because the water hits it, and the water just runs to the holes. So, I didn't have a problem using this one or the other one. The one over there is the impervious. That's a 8x100 roll, which is $110. That would be at Menards. And this one here is a 12x100, and that's only $70. That's actually, you get more weed mat, but it's not impervious. It's pervious. It's woven. So what we did is we cut around. We left a few things you could see. We left the sage that was growing from last year, and of course that's the center there where we don't have a weed mat, and horseradishes right there. So these are all heirloom tomatoes. So what we did is we measured 2 foot on center like we always do, and we drilled out holes. I broke 2 more drills, and I realized that the reason they broke, I hit some old staples, and the drill I was using is really powerful, and once it's torquing and it stops, it just breaks the bit. So I went to a really cheap Ryobi drill and went slower, broke a bit on that, and I bought some cheap bits from Menards, $10 instead of the big ones. So I broke 2 bits again here, and I've got 1 bit left to finish. You can see I haven't drilled those holes out yet. So there's about room for 50 more plants in here, and we're going to do that. I think we're going to have to do this Friday morning because we have a show today. We're going up to South Euclid for a market, and I've got to go to 3 other gardens to pick. That will have to be cleaned up on Friday, and we'll have to add in a lot more plants. We have a lot of plants we haven't planted. And I think what's going to end up happening is we're just going to start drop planting at the farm out in the fields, and just putting everything out and crossing our fingers on some of it. But we have a lot of plants. I think about 1,200 tomato plants now. And so here, after I drilled it, then what I did was I have a big fire pit. And I took some of the ash, and then I actually bought some potting mix, which I never do, but I didn't feel like going to pick it up because it was an hour drive. So I kind of had to spend $32, which I didn't want to do. And I mixed it, and hey, Giant, hey, thanks. Yeah, you're right. Giant says I should use a pulse hole digger. I've got one, but I'm like 60, and they're hard, and You're right. If I had another person, Andy did come here. Andy, my buddy, came and helped me for like 4 or 5 hours in this garden yesterday, and I did. We did a lot. And by the way, Andy invented. He saw one of my problems, and one of my problems was when I would drill the hole, the dirt would go underneath the mat, and I'd lose a lot of dirt. So Andy says, "Hey, why don't you just make a platform, drill a hole through it, stand on this, and then put the drill bit, and you won't lose any dirt." And you can see how it works great. All the dirt comes out. These are the little leftover piles of dirt, which is going to take time to clean up, and I'm just going to plant right now. I'll get to that soon. So this year we won't harvest the horseradish. We harvested last year. This is leftover from last year. We decided to keep this sage, and we left room here for the sage and the horseradish to go. So this was the 4-year-old weed mat pile. By the way, if you want to kill weeds, I recommend buying big, long plastic bags and covering them for a week or two, and that kills the weeds. It makes it a lot easier. So you can see here we're not done. I thought I could do a whole garden in one day. Well, that didn't quite work out that way, but we did do 12 hours here straight yesterday, and you can see we got a little bit more to go. And here you can see some of the plants. These are all heirloom tomatoes that I started in my basement, and that is my daughter's cat. I don't like you. I don't mean that, but I'm allergic to the thing. I'm allergic to cats. That's great for a home inspector, right? So we've got all this to plant, and there's a company in Cleveland that sells seeds called Organic Plant It, and they sell seeds, and they sell some really good tomato plant seeds and all type of exotic stuff. You might want to check it out. Organic Plant It, like plant it, not plant it. Plant it like you're going to plant it, right? So here we go. Yesterday's work not done. I gotta go. I'll be back here. Hey, thanks, Giant. I gotta go and to the other gardens and pick, because I've got to sell some fresh produce today, and we'll be here. And man, I hope I finish this on Friday, because we got a huge garden we got to still do in Cleveland, which is going to be the herb garden, and I haven't touched that. So hey, thanks for coming on, all.